Uber का क्या है? They'll be coming here?
Yeah, they are here.
Mr. Marathi. Sir, we also have Uber team here, who will be making an announcement. Are they here? Please come over. They'll just make a brief announcement and then we'll move on to the next.
Good morning to all. At the outset, let me take this opportunity to thank Honorable Minister for IT, Mr. KTR Garu, Honorable Transport Minister, Mr. Ajay Puvada Garu, and all Mr. Jayesh Ranjan and Sunil Sharma Garu. Let me vouch for the fact that we've gone through multiple electric vehicle policies, and by far this is one of the most comprehensive policy and progressive policies we've seen. We at Uber profoundly believe that sustainable transportation can only be achieved by transitioning cleaner fuels to public transport, and our endeavor in this is to support commercial adoption of vehicles by partnering with OEMs, fleet partners and charging infrastructure stations. As of today on Uber, we have around 500 plus electric vehicles which have traveled more than 30 lakh kilometers across India, and recently we've forged a partnership with Lithium Urban Technologies to onboard another 1,000 electric vehicles across Hyderabad, Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai and Pune. We are also in advanced conversations with OEMs in Hyderabad for the electric auto pilot. In fact, we believe that electric autos could be a perfect catalyst in increased public transport adoption by supplementing the first and last mile transport from public transport network that we've built out in Hyderabad. Additionally, a single window time-bound permit grant process will provide a positive nudge towards increased adoption of electric vehicles. In our recent global sustainability event, which was held a month back, we identified electric vehicles and multimodal transport as the key pillars for sustainability in public transport. In view of this, we've recently launched public transport journey planning in Hyderabad in collaboration with L&T Metro. This tool allows citizens to view estimated time, cost and directions from public metros in the Uber app. So once again, I take this opportunity to thank everyone present here, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll have the MOU signing with ARAI, in which Mr. M.B. Marathe, Director of ARAI, will be signing from Pune, and Mr. Sujay Karampuri will be signing on behalf of the Telangana government. The signed copy from our side is already with Mr. Marathe and the team, and they have sent their signed copy, which we shall sign now in the presence of the Honorable Ministers and the Principal Secretaries. Thank you so much, Marathe sir and team from ARI, and thank you so much, Sujay sir. And next, we would now moving on to, we should continue with our proceedings. I would now request Honorable Minister for Transport, Shri Ajay Kumar Garu, to deliver his perspective.
Honorable Minister for Information Technology, MAUD and Industries, Sri KT Ramarao Garu, Honorable Minister for Endowment and Forests, Sri Indakaran Reddy Garu, Principal Secretary IT and Industries, Sri Jayesh Ranjan Garu, Principal Secretary Transport, Sri Sunil Sharma Garu, the dignitaries who are attending this policy launching program physically and virtually, my dear friends, I first of all feel privileged to share this dais with our dynamic and young KTR Ramarao Garu, who in fact is the face of technology and face of change of this new state of Telangana in India. He is the brain behind the changes and the reforms in Telangana. When you take the first policy of TS I-Pass, which has come, and later he has recently came up with TS B-Pass, and today with his great efforts and initiation, the Telangana Electric Vehicle and Energy Storage Policy 2020 to 2030 is being launched. Practically the Transport Department right now has got the details of as on 27/10/2020 a total of 5,431 electric vehicles are being registered in Telangana, consisting of mainly 4,292 motorcycles, 491 motor cabs, 194 e-rickshaws and e-carts, and 40 TSRTC electric buses. With this policy which is being launched with the initiation of our great leader KT Ramarao Garu, the main focus and the end user's interest would be what would be the benefits if they go for the electric vehicles purchase. On behalf of the Transport Department, we are proposing in this policy the incentives as follows: that 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for the first 2 lakh electric two-wheelers purchased and registered within Telangana. Similarly, for the 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for first 20,000 electric three-wheelers purchased and registered within Telangana, retrofitment incentive at 15% of the retrofitment cost capped at rupees 15,000 per vehicle for first 5,000 retrofit 3-seater auto rickshaws in Telangana. Financing institutions shall be encouraged to provide a hire purchase scheme at discounted interest rates. And incentives for the electric four-wheeler commercial passenger vehicles such as taxis, tourist cabs, etc. 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee will be offered for the first 5,000 electric four-wheeler commercial passenger vehicles such as taxis, tourist cabs, and purchased and registered within Telangana. Also, the incentives is being offered to light good carriers including three-wheelers, 100% exemption of the road tax and the registration fee for the first 10,000 electric three-wheeler goods, e-carriers as well as electric light good carriers purchased and registered within Telangana. Also, 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for the first 5,000 electric four-wheeler private vehicles purchased and registered within Telangana. And finally, the 100% exemption of road tax and registration fee for the 500 electric buses first purchased and registered within Telangana. State transport units shall also be encouraged to purchase electric buses. Already we have 40 electric buses which are plying to the airport. We will also take into consideration of increasing the number of electric buses as far as of the Road Transport Corporation is also concerned. The tractors which also would be encouraged in giving exemption of taxes both under road tax and the registration fee as and when the electric tractors are launched. Now with these incentives from the department, there is another policy matter which has also to be relaxed is the GOMS number 137 and GOMS number 14, which were imposing restrictions on the three-wheelers, auto rickshaws, the replacement and the restrictions GOs, which are to be relaxed and which is under the process. With this, as far as my transport department is concerned, a whopping of few hundred crores of exemptions will be offered to the end users by doing this. Now, our request is that these benefits should be passed on to the end user, and the manufacturers are requested from our department and from the government to be more liberal in fixing the prices of the electrical vehicles in all sectors like that, that is the two-wheelers, three-wheelers and the commercial and non-commercial four-wheeler vehicles. And I profusely thank Sri KT Ramarao Garu for making me part of this policy and inviting me to this, and I really feel privileged to launch this policy along with him. Thanks for the opportunity given to me, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wise words. We now move on to the next event. I would now request Honorable Minister Sri KT Ramarao Garu to come and give a special address.
Very good morning to all of you. Honorable Minister Transport Sri Puwad Ajay Kumar Garu, Honorable Minister for Forest, Environment, Science and Technology, Endowments and Law, Sri Indra Karan Reddy Garu, Honorable Principal Secretary of Roads and Buildings and Transport, Sri Sunil Sharma Garu, Honorable Principal Secretary, Industry and IT, Sri Jayesh Ranjan Garu, TSIC MD Garu, Narasimha Reddy Garu, TS Redco MD, Janay Garu, to all the participants, who've just signed memorandums of understanding with the Government of Telangana, and to all the friends in the gathering here, a warm welcome to all of you. Before I go into my formal speech, I would also like to acknowledge my bad, we live in a virtual reality kind of situation today, so I forgot to acknowledge Sri Pavan Goenka, who's joined us, especially the chairman, the CEO of Mahindra Group, and Sri Sunil Mehta ji of the Yes Bank Group, and Srimati Anna Roy from Niti Aayog. Thank you, madam, for joining us. And please do convey to Mr. Amitabh Kant that we missed him. Before I go into my formal speech, I just wanted to say one thing quickly. I was talking to a friend of mine, after seeing what's been happening around the world, during this pandemic, how nature was healing itself, and I was getting all these videos on social media, how nature really is healing and how the world is so much of a better place, without humans kind of killing whatever we've been doing, inflicting all the damage we've done. One of the things a very learned and a very knowledgeable friend of mine said, I said, what is the solution going forward as from a government perspective? What do we do to make sure that we help our environment, we pass on a better planet to our children? What do we do? He said something very, very interesting. He said, follow the 3D mantra. I said, what is that? And he said, first thing, focus on decarbonization. Second, focus even more on digitization. And thirdly, focus also on decentralization. Now, I don't need to explain to any of you in this room, decarbonization or digitization. I think you all know it rather well. Now, what did he mean by decentralization? I think what he meant was, see, I also wear the other hat of Minister for Urban Development and Municipal Administration. One of the biggest challenges I face in that ministry is the rapid urbanization and suburbanization that is sweeping our nation. Today, Telangana, in fact, is one of the most urbanized states in India. We're almost 43–44% urban population. And in about 5 to 7 years, in fact, majority of Telangana would be living in urban areas and minority would be living in rural areas. That's the reality. Now, how do we address this? Why do people migrate? Why do people urbanize? People urbanize in search of better livelihoods, in search of better Medicare facilities, in search of better education facilities. So what this learned friend of mine meant was decentralize. While we can't completely contain urbanization, at least we can hope for suburbanization in a structured, planned way. Create more counter-magnets, create more integrated townships, ensure that people actually move further away, create more economic clusters around the city of Hyderabad, as was pointed out by Mr. Goenka. While Mahatma Gandhi was right when he said, India lives in its villages, the fact today, after 75 years of independence, is India is run by its cities. Today, our cities have become the epicenters of economic activity. Today, for instance, if you take the example of Hyderabad, nearly 50% of state GSDP comes from our capital city. Nearly 50% of Telangana's GSDP is contributed by Hyderabad. So therefore, it's extremely important to conserve, to preserve, and to ensure that the economic vitality our cities offer remains intact if we are to grow into a 5 trillion economy, as our Honorable Prime Minister keeps alluding to, or if we really have to get into the league of developed first world countries, as we all combinedly dream of every so often. Now, how do we achieve that? How do we go about doing it? Recently there was floods in Hyderabad. We all know that. Cloudbursts, climate changes, unseasonal rains are not only affecting urban denizens, they're also affecting our farmers. They're also affecting people across the world. Now, one of the nicest things and one of the most interesting things I've heard today from the previous speakers was sustainable mobility. You know, we talk about sustainable energy all the time. But today I heard Pawan Goenka mention about sustainable mobility. He also talked about shared mobility. Now, these are the things I think our cities today need if we really have to ensure that we preserve their fabric, we preserve their growth momentum, and we grow into a league of first world country in years to come, years that lie ahead of us. Now, having said that, I believe what has been accomplished is very little, but what lies ahead, the road that lies ahead in terms of ensuring that we get there with respect to sustainable energy and also sustainable mobility is going to be an arduous, is going to be a difficult journey, but I think with all stakeholders participating, governments in cities, governments in state, government in Delhi, and also, when I say Delhi, I don't mean Kejriwal, I mean Government of India, and also all stakeholders, the private sector, the startups, the large OEMs, the aggregators, all of us working together, I think will be, therein lies the real success of this policy launch today. Of course, as was pointed out by my friends earlier, Telangana in fact has come out with an extremely comprehensive policy. It just does not talk about electric vehicles in itself. We also have ensured that the energy storage policy is dovetailed with our electric vehicle policy, because these are two extremely tight-knit ideas which need to work together cohesively. Now, I'm also delighted that two very important ministers and their are seated on the dais. For this electric vehicle policy to be successful, I think these three ministries need to work together very, very closely. One is, of course, to promote investments, to promote innovation, industry and IT ministry, which is represented by myself and Jayesh Ranjan. We need to be working closely with our colleagues to ensure that electric vehicles are adopted and people actually lap them up. We need to work closely with Honorable Minister for Transport and his secretary, and to ensure that whatever we do remains in consonance with environment. We need the support of Honorable Minister for Environment, Science and Technology. So the fact that Telangana government has not only thought this through in terms of policy, but also in terms of ensuring that the policy is enforced effectively, implemented effectively, we brought out all stakeholders, and this multi-stakeholder engagement, I believe, will lead to a very successful implementation of this policy that our state has come out with. As I pointed out, Hyderabad is today our capital city, and it is the epicenter of our economic activity. This city today, in fact, I urge not only Mr. Pawan Goenka and to every electric vehicle manufacturer in the city, our dream today, in fact, as we launch this policy, is to make great strides of progress in electric vehicle adoption and also make our city and our state the epicenter of electric vehicle manufacturing and adoption. Now I offer the city of Hyderabad as a test case for all electric vehicle manufacturers to come and work with us. Come and work with our Hyderabad Metro Rail. Come and work with our MMTS. Come and work with our RTC and see how together we can explore better public transportation solutions, better shared mobility solutions with our aggregators, Uber, Ola, and many others out there. We could work together jointly to ensure that more and more people are taken away from their private vehicles, which are gas guzzlers today, to these wonderful vehicles which are environmental friendly. The state is already, in fact, one of the leaders in sustainable energy production. We've made, as I pointed out, when we started our journey about 6 years ago, we only had 45 megawatts of solar energy being produced from our state. But today, I'm delighted to share with you that we are number 2 in the country with more than 4,100 megawatts of solar energy production in a very, very short span of time. That goes to show you the commitment of our Honorable Chief Minister, Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao Garu, to renewable energy, to sustainable energy solutions. And we are looking to also, of course, ramp up all possible energy solutions, especially on the sustainable front. Now, when it comes to manufacturing, in fact, I'm delighted today that we've signed about 5 MOUs, not only with manufacturers, but also some regulatory authorities. Our manufacturing sector today, in fact, in Telangana, is, in spite of the fact that we have, someone like Mahindra manufacturing nearly 150,000 tractors, a large OEM from their Zahirabad plant. And I'm delighted, Pawanji, thank you very much if you're listening in, on making the announcement that you're going to bring in the electric tractor with all Japanese technology, and it would be manufactured out of Zahirabad. It's a matter of pride that, the largest, tractor manufacturing facility in Asia today, which is based in Zahirabad, will also start manufacturing electric tractors. I'm sure the farmers in our country would look forward and will surely lap up the advancements that you guys are making in electric tractors as well. Our policy is comprehensive, and therefore today I'm delighted we have Olectra, Mitra, GAIM, and other ETUs, and others who have signed ETRIO, have signed MOUs with us. Our policy does not limit itself, though, to electric vehicle manufacturers only. Our incentives, our policy incentives, will also be extended to charging stations, and also battery manufacturers. And I'm delighted that we are receiving several players and several proposals with intent to set up charging stations and also storage solutions. Now, I also wanted to quickly point out 2 things. Like I said, a cohesive approach between departments, between the various facets of my ministry, that is the industry and commerce, also need to be in place if we have to make a EV policy a truly successful policy. So therefore, let me share with you that in our state today we have the largest electronics manufacturing cluster. If you look at them in a combined way, we have more than 1,000 acres of land available at our disposal. One is E-City in Raviriyal and another one in Maheshwaram. Between the 2 of them, we have 1,000 acres of land at our disposal for electronics manufacturers. Likewise, we also have a huge NIMZ, the National Investment Manufacturing Zone, based out of Zahirabad, where I already mentioned that Mahindra's, one of the largest OEMs of our country, has a significant plant. We would like to promote it as an automobile cluster and ensure that more than 1,000 acres again are allotted for any automaker who would want to come into our state and work with us, so as to ensure a complete comprehensive ecosystem of OEM, supply chain can coexist together in one single location. And also, I'm happy to announce 2 clusters, 2 industrial clusters. One in the Chandanvalli Sitarampur cluster in Shabad in Rangareddy district, which is already attracting significant investment, and which is where I think both Olectra and Mitra are setting up their plants, will shape up into an EV cluster. And also another very important cluster in Divitipalli in Mehboob will also be developed as another new energy park, new energy and new EV cluster. Likewise, we also plan in fact, to develop a mobility cluster, which I will be announcing soon, possibly sometime next month. We have, again, a number of very interesting technology players and also auto manufacturers who are coming together for the first time in creating this mobility cluster. So this approach of having an automobile cluster, an electronics cluster, an EV cluster, and also a mobility cluster, I think would provide that comprehensive ground for anybody who's interested in electric vehicle space to make Telangana their hub and look nowhere else, no further, for their enterprise and entrepreneurial ideas when it comes to setting up base in India. We will continue, like I said, through TSI Pass and other very progressive initiatives under the dynamic leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister to continue to attract manufacturing and also continue to focus on expanding our research ecosystem through a collaborative effort with the private sector and also the wonderful academic institutions we have. Let me also remind you that Hyderabad, in fact, has a significant base of electronics companies in the form of ECIL, and I'm not talking now, I'm talking legacy. ECIL, BEL, in fact, HAL, and all of these companies, all of these large public sector undertakings, which are having a significant presence in Hyderabad, have shaped up the ecosystem. And there is a large, small and medium entrepreneurial ecosystem that already exists, which will again propel our drive and our ambition to be the leading EV and leading electrified state in the country, as a leader, in fact. And let me just give you some broad statistics. When the world economy and India's economy also, in fact, has not been doing very well for the last more than a few quarters. In fact, as you all may remember, even before Corona hit us, I think the last 8 quarters preceding, the pandemic, also we have seen slowdown across the country. But fortunately for us in Telangana, our annual GSDP growth rate has been consistent. We've been growing at a breakneck speed, and we've been growing at a much, much rapid pace than any other state in the country at 14.2% over the last 5 years. We are consistently ranked as among the top 3 states in the country on the ease of doing business rankings. We have slipped a slot this year, but we'll bounce back, I'm sure. And our TSI Pass, which is a landmark single window clearance system, has been instrumental in bringing more than $28 billion of investment in the last 5 years. Telangana continues to remain number 2 as a city and state in IT software exports, but our growth rate has been substantially higher than the national growth rate. In fact, while the country has been growing at about 8%, we've been growing at about 18%, which goes to show you that our growth momentum has not slipped. We've also recently added many EV-related technology firms, such as ZF Automotive and Electronics, ZF Automotive, and electronics firms such as Oppo, Vivo, Skyworth, Intel, Micron. All of them today are having significant presence in our city. Our innovation ecosystem is second to none, with important players in important institutions such as RICH, the Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad, TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skill and Knowledge, soon to be coming up T-Works, and of course T-Hub, which is widely known. We intend to leverage our strengths in electronics, aerospace and defense, and information technology sectors, creating synergies, thereby developing as a center for research and innovation for all electric vehicles, battery technologies, and other emerging technologies such as autonomous and connected vehicles. We have taken a pragmatic approach in drafting this policy. We've consulted the industry. We've also discussed with various other public policy institutions, and I guarantee that if we meet the initial numbers, because there might be a concern that the numbers that we've showcased in this policy are on the lower side in terms of adoption. I promise you one thing, that if we meet the initial numbers, I shall go back to the Cabinet and plead with Honorable Chief Minister to further increase the numbers and extend incentives to as many people who adopt to these electric vehicles as possible. As I pointed out, I think the key departments, Transport Department of course, plays a very important role in regulatory and adoption of EVs. I request the Honorable Transport Minister and Transport Secretary to work with us closely, and let's work together in ensuring that this becomes a success. Energy Department also needs to take measures to make charging easily available. I'm glad that they are represented here by Mr. Janaya, who will ensure, but TS Redco will also set up a lot of charging stations. MA and UD, of course, which is also under my supervision, will ensure all regulatory approvals and setting up of necessary infrastructure with respect to our charging stations that we will be setting up in metro stations and elsewhere will also be, and parking lots also will be, factored and will be given whatever incentives are required to make it sustainable. We're also, as I pointed out, planning to establish public charging stations at airports, railway stations, metro stations, parking lots, bus depots, markets, fuel stations, malls, etc. And I request all charging station players to come forward and work with us. And we can work with, we're not exclusive to anyone. We will be open. We will work with, all the leading players in the industry in a very transparent fashion. And we look forward to working closely with you. We're already establishing 178 charging stations in Telangana. And the state already, as was pointed out by Honorable Transport Minister, has a fleet of buses plying through TSRTC. We're currently engaging with ARAI, with whom we've just signed an MOU, to collectively work towards promoting research and development for manufacturing of electric vehicle and energy storage systems. Because looking forward, as was pointed out by Anna Roy, India needs to find its own solutions. We cannot be aping the West. We cannot be aping any other country with respect to EVs, because our situation is very different. Our people are very different. Our approach to our roads, our approach to our urban planning, our approach to adoption of technology is very different when compared to other countries and other parts of the world. We believe that the EV adoption would increase more and more since the policy just rolled out today. As was pointed out again by my previous speakers, while Government of India may have launched out their idea, their efforts 3 years ago, I think it's very, very important for the states to join this to actually, gain momentum. And with Telangana now, coming out with its own policy, I believe the adoption would improve and increase at a rapid pace. So we invite the industry in India and abroad to come forward, make Hyderabad as their base for manufacturing operations, as we believe local manufacturing is the key to achieve the price-performance parity and enable faster adoption of electric vehicles. Once again, I thank all the stakeholders who have participated in policy making, who have come forward to invest in the state of Telangana, and I look forward to interacting with you more often and more closely to ensure that Telangana truly becomes the hub for electric vehicles in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for providing the strategic perspective for manufacturing ecosystem in Telangana. Now we have Mr. Vijay Madhuri to come and give his talk.
Sir, for changing slides, you need to tell the host to change the next slide. Like if you integrate next slide,
Sure.
you can change.
Sure.
Yeah.
Honorable Minister KTR Garu, Ajay Garu, Indrakaran Garu, Principal Secretaries Jayesh Ranjan Garu and Sunil Sharma ji, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity. Although I have to say it's very tough to speak immediately after KTR Garu and hold the spell of the audience. I'll try to do my best and also keep it short. We are actually promoting a company called Watts and Volts, which is an important stakeholder, we believe, in the shared mobility space, because we are going to be doing the first mile and last mile connectivity that enables people to use not only electric vehicles, but also use public transportation, such as metros and buses. So this enables people to avoid getting crammed into shared autos, especially in view of the current pandemic that we are going through. There is a lot of reluctance to use public transportation because of the fear of getting crammed into shared autos for the first mile and last mile. So we are going 100% electric. We are starting with micro-mobility with e-bikes, e-mopeds and e-scooters. And we want to keep it as a simple pay and use system that would be available at all the major areas of the city and with a planned expansion for the rest of the country. It is based in Hyderabad, yes. Of course, it's based in Hyderabad. I also want to thank you, sir, and also commend the state of Telangana for always being pioneers in the areas not in just in IT and pharma, but also now coming up with these policies on electric vehicles. Um, we also plan to expand soon into Mumbai and Goa, sir, and then cover the other major metros in the in the country. Our partners, majorly Mr. KTR and Vamsi, we all come from different backgrounds, but we are bound by the IT mantra, and we wanted to start a business that has not just a technology challenge, but also an exponential social impact, which we believe, I think this is exactly the right business, and I couldn't have found a better place to announce the launch of the company. Apart from the three of us, while we were actually looking for other promoters, we are also very lucky to find two celebrity promoters who actually share our vision in terms of what we are trying to do, social impact and the impact with respect to promoting EVs, with respect to promoting public transportation. One of them is right here, Mr. Vijay Devarkonda, the youth icon and a pan-India star. The other gentleman who couldn't join us is Mr. Sunil Shetty. He wanted to join remotely, but he's in a hill station where there is a poor Wi-Fi connection, so he excused himself today. So we are very proud that we'll be launching in early 2021 with Hyderabad as our first base, and then expanding further into Mumbai, Goa, and then other cities. I would like to invite Mr. Vijay Devarkonda to say a few words here about the business and the reason why he sees it as important. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Too many respected leaders of the industry and policymakers here. I cannot wish you all by name, but my regards to all of you present here and present online. I'm from this city, so what's happening here, I love it. While growing up, as a kid, I've always had this opinion that we as a country somehow worked in hindsight. I thought that we always waited for a problem to happen, let it get really serious till it became a deal breaker, and then try and find solutions. But over the last 5-6 years, what I've been seeing governments working with foresight. This state has become like a state of dreams. Like, be it having 24/7 power supply, like my village, my district, we have water which for farming, and people are getting 2 crops a year. There's more money to spend. The land rates have gone up. All this is like magical to us. We haven't seen it in life. Be it T-Hub, be it iPass. Like, these are like few of the 100 things that I am aware of. And now this Telangana e-vehicle summit, this is like foresight, and I love what is happening. And as you can see, a lot of it has happened under our current Chief Minister KCR Garu's administration, and KTR Anna, congratulations for what all is happening. I've always said we are in good hands. Other than when we have these like extraordinary crippling circumstances like the pandemic or these rains, but I'm sure we'll be well prepared. And as you see, I believe e-vehicles are the future. I'm no expert in this field, but I believe they are the future, and as you can see, I'm betting on it. So what's involved? Early Jan next year, we'll bring a beautiful product, and we hope to add to the clean, better lifestyles of Hyderabad. We hope to add to how beautiful our city is and improve our lifestyles. That's it. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On this momentous occasion of unveiling of the electric vehicles and energy storage policy 2020-2030, we from Telangana government and our knowledge partners from Yes Bank welcome all of you sitting here today. In addition to this, we have gone in hybrid mode today, wherein we also have people attending virtually, which includes dignitaries from ARAI, ICR, Invest India, MITI, and all across the country. A warm welcome to all of you, especially those guests who have joined us virtually from the web. I now hand you over to Sri Sujay Karampuri, Director Electronics, EV and ESS System, to the podium for his opening address.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here for the first EV Summit from Telangana, where we are unveiling our policy for electric vehicles and energy storage solutions. So I just want to, before we speak about the policy and its details, I just want to give you an idea of how we have approached this and what it means for us. So first, the policy is enforceable and binding. It has the cabinet approval, and yesterday the GO was released. So therefore, various departments who are the stakeholders, it is incumbent upon them to enforce this over the next 10 years. Two, it is quite comprehensive in the sense that we may be probably one of the few states who says that it is just not electric vehicles, but it is also energy storage solutions. Two, we not only take care of the adoption by the common man and the users, but we also encourage a lot of manufacturing to take care of this particular adoption. So that means we are taking care of the adoption, being a consumer, but we are also a producer as a state. So these are some of the things that we have incorporated into the policy, both the adoption side and also the production side. Three, it is quite pragmatic and elastic. So I'll tell you what it means. We have incorporated only those elements which can be enforced and can also be subsidized and incentivized with a real, government funding. So, you may look at some of the caps, for example, on how many vehicles we subsidize. So, do not be deterred or daunted by those numbers, because it is elastic in the nature, in the sense that if we do indeed meet those targets, we have the capacity to increase it, because the policy is between 2020 to 2030. So, that's another part of this. And also, it shows that being pragmatic in the sense that we have subsidized where it matters the most. So two things. One is the subsidy goes to the common man the most, because the two-wheeler, three-wheeler, then four-wheeler and the buses. But also when it comes to manufacturers, various states tend to give a lot of subsidies only to the big guys. But in our case, we also give the subsidy to the smallest of the producers as well. And the third part is it's collaborative in nature. So, EV as a technology has come about with, it's an interdisciplinary effort, right, between chemical, electronic, materials, chemical, various engineering fields have to come together. In the same way, various departments have to come together to make this happen. And that is what we are doing. This policy comes with a steering committee which will implement this policy and make recommendations to the policy over the next 10 years. And that also is one of the features of our policy. So with that, I leave this particular thing open for various speakers. I think the next speaker is our chief guest, Mr. Goenka. Why don't you give an introduction? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Our next speaker actually would be Mr. Sunil Mehta, Chairman, Yes Bank, who would be giving his welcome address. Sri Sunil Mehta, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Honorable Minister Shri K.T. Ramarao, Honorable Minister Shri Puvada Ajay Kumar, Dr. Pavan Goenka, MD and CEO Mahindra and Mahindra, Shri Jayesh Ranjan, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce, IT, Electronics and Communications, Government of Telangana. Shri Sunil Sharma, IAS Principal Secretary, Transports, Roads and Buildings, Government of Telangana. Shri Randeep Singh, Senior Specialist, NITIO, DPIO. and Shri E.V. Narasimha Reddy, Vice Chairman and MD, PSIIC, and esteemed speakers, industry colleagues and friends from media. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the Telangana EV Summit. On behalf of Yes Bank, I congratulate the government of Telangana for developing the Telangana electric vehicle and energy storage policy for 2020 to 2030. We hope that the policy acts as a catalyst for accelerating adoption of EVs in the state and also becomes an enabler for development of a robust EV manufacturing ecosystem. Yes Bank is privileged to be associated with the government of Telangana I'll repeat, there was some disturbance. Yes Bank is privileged to be associated with the government of Telangana and to have supported the policy development by facilitating industry stakeholder outreach. Telangana is recognized globally for its immense contributions across industries and particularly in the IT and pharmaceutical sectors. The state, under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao, has been undertaking several progressive initiatives for creating a favorable business environment. The government's commitment towards growth and overall development is evident from the state's impressive performance in the recently announced Ease of Doing Business ranking. My special compliments to Shri K.T. Ramarao for his dynamic and growth-oriented leadership. On my several interactions, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, with you, my respect grows with every interaction with you, and I know with the kind of leadership and the leadership skills that you display, I have no doubt that Telangana and Hamara Bharat will eventually become Mahan as we all want it to be. Initiatives such as T-Works and T-Hub are highly commendable and play a key role in promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. Now, with the launch of the EV and energy storage policy and plans for development of EV manufacturing zones, Telangana is taking rapid strides towards emerging as a leader in electric mobility. India currently lacks battery cell manufacturing capabilities and we are largely dependent on imports. Telangana government may accord higher focus on such segments for a strong positioning across the EV ecosystem.